Hi everyone, my name is Amber and I keep buying books. So you may know, if you have been a follower of my channel for a while, that I am meant to be doing a zero TBR challenge. Like, it's not really zero TBR in that I don't think I'm ever going to get there, but it's like I'm meant to be reducing it at least somewhat, and I am doing a terrible job. It's really embarrassing, and that's why I haven't done a zero TBR update in a while. In June and July I was in a massive reading slump for 2 months, and that meant that I wasn't reading anything, and because I was really stressed I decided that I would buy a bunch of books to cheer myself up, and that never goes well. So I have a bunch of books here to show you that I have bought or acquired. Most of them are from charity shops, to be fair, because I really like going around and browsing them on my lunch break, because you know, it's just relaxing. But I really shouldn't be doing it because I am meant to be trying to reduce my TBR. I mean, it's not up to horrific numbers, but I don't think it's reduced much this past year. So yeah, I'm not happy with myself, but I am really looking forward to all of these books. So I will do a zero TBR update maybe in a month's time once I've got my reading groove back and I can actually talk about things with enthusiasm. I'm almost out of the slump now, I'm pretty much out of it. I just want to read solidly for another month or so before I talk to you about reducing my TBR. Anyway, so I have several different categories here that I'll put down below as like chapters or whatever they're called. I have some library books, I have some books that I mentioned in my July wrap-up that I have already read, so I won't go into too much detail about those. I have some advanced readers copies from authors, I have some books that I bought brand new, and I have books that I bought from the charity shops. So lots and lots of books. I'm going to start off with the books that I spoke about in my July wrap-up because I don't really need to say much about them. I've obviously already read them and given my thoughts. First one is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is my first Tessa Bailey book and I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. I mean, I don't love romance anyway, but this one in particular, it was just very boring. I liked the concept of it. So basically it's about Piper, who is kind of a rich party girl, very spoiled, and she gets into massive trouble one day and her stepdad cuts her off financially and sends her to her biological dad's hometown, where she has to stick around for a bit and sort of live within her means and be a normal person. And then she meets this guy who is a fisherman and romance ensues. I think my issue with this one was that romance came about very quickly. I like a longer build-up, slow burn type thing. It kind of tried to go for enemies to lovers because they definitely didn't like each other at first, but I don't think that lasted long enough for me to truly enjoy it like I was hoping to. Also, I don't think there was enough of Piper kind of settling into the town before the romance started. I wanted her to kind of struggle to fit in, get really emotional about it, and yeah, that didn't happen that way. And I won't be reading the sequel to this because I just don't really have any interest in any of the characters, which is a shame because I thought I would love Tessa Bailey, but I don't. Let me know if any of her other books are better and I could maybe try one of those. I got that one for like £3, so it's fine. I also bought The Roommates really cheaply. Oh wait, I haven't read this one. I didn't talk about this one in my July TBR. Let me put this down for later. One that I definitely did read in July is The River at Night. This one is a survival thriller. So the main characters are 4 best friends who travel up to the wilderness in Maine, I think it was, to go on their yearly annual trip. They're all having sort of their own issues, and one of the women's solutions to this is to go white water rafting and kind of get the girls or women out of their own heads. Of course, something terrible happens and it all goes a bit wrong. I really enjoyed this one for the thriller survival aspect. I love stuff like that. I didn't really like the twist that it took. About halfway through, I would say, it took ages for the disaster to actually happen, and then something happened just after it that kind of changed the vibe of the book, and I didn't love that. But I still really enjoyed this and gave it 3.5 stars. It was very fast paced. I finished it in one evening and it was exactly what I wanted. It kind of broke my reading slump. There is another river focused book called Just the River, I think, which seems to have similar vibes. I'm going to get my hands on that soon when I'm no longer on a book buying ban, because I think that will also give me similar vibes to this one. Okay, so those are actually the only 2 that I read in July, I think. I'm recording this a little bit early, so there might be more in here, we'll see. I'm sorry, this book haul is all over the place. I also have 4 books I got from the library. The first one is The Disappearance of Lydia Harvey, which is a true crime book. It's about a teenager called Lydia Harvey who disappeared from New Zealand. No, sorry. So she travelled from New Zealand to Buenos Aires and then she vanished. I think she was meant to be kind of like the au pair or maid or something to a very rich couple, and she just vanished. And then later on, I think it follows some detectives who are looking into sex trafficking, and they find a woman who might be the key to solving the whole Lydia Harvey case. It's blurbed by the author of The Five, which is one of my all-time favourite non-fiction books. I adore that book, and the author also compares it to The Five as well, so I'm really looking forward to giving this one a go. It's going to be one of the first books I hopefully read in August. I didn't actually put it on my August TBR, but you know, that's fine. Next, I picked up 2 books that were nominated, I think, for the Booker Prize or the Women's Prize for Fiction. They were nominated for something together, and I don't think they won. They maybe won. I don't know, I should have looked this up. The first one is The Island of Missing Trees. I have no idea what this is about. I think it's set in Cyprus. Yeah, it's historical fiction from 1974, which is historical now. 2 teenagers from opposite sides of the divided island meet at a tavern. One is Greek and Christian, and the other is Turkish and Muslim. Decades later, 16-year-old Ada has never visited the island where her parents were born. Desperate for answers, she seeks to untangle years of secrets, separation and silence. I think this one sounds really good. I don't really know much about the history of Cyprus. I know that it's kind of a divided island, but I don't really know why or any of the history behind it, so I'm looking forward to reading this one and learning some more. I also picked up Great Circle, which is, again, historical fiction. There are 2 main characters, one of which is from 1950, and she wants to travel around the world, but then she gets stuck in Antarctica. And then the other main character is a Hollywood star and wants to portray her, I think, in a movie or a show. It says here the role that leads her to probe the deepest mysteries of the vanished pilot's life. I can't speak today. I don't know if it's told in like journal entries and then flips back and forth. I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to reading it. And then we have one that I am so excited for, and again, I didn't put this on my August TBR, but that's honestly partly because I didn't want to spoil this book haul video, and I'm now regretting it because I definitely want to read this in August, and that is The Gilded Cage, which is the sequel to The Prison Healer, which I loved when I read it last year, I think. It's a YA fantasy book set in prison. The main character has grown up there because her father was in prison there. She had to take part in some trials and challenges to sort of do something. I can't really remember how much would be a spoiler, but basically there was sort of magical powers, and it felt like a really good fast-paced YA book with a twist at the end that I loved, a bit of a rebellion going on, and I'm really looking forward to reading the sequel. That's it for library books. We're already 10 minutes into the video. I need to hurry up. Next, we have 2 books that I got from the authors. One was one that I wanted to give away, actually, and that is Those Summer Nights. This is actually the one that I thought I had lost in my July book haul, but it was actually just in a tote bag in my house and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was really sad about it because the author signed it for me as well and gave me a couple of bookmarks, which was lovely. But yeah, I won this giveaway on Twitter, and this book comes out on the, I think, 23rd of August. I'm fairly sure it was pushed back. But anyway, this is like a co-worker romance, which I love. It's a really good trope to me because it also happened to me IRL. I'm expecting it to be a cute YA contemporary, so looking forward to reading that soon. I also got from the author Mina and the Slayers, which is the sequel to Mina and the Undead. I don't really want to talk too much about this one, but it's set in the 90s in New Orleans. In the first one, the main character travels from England to New Orleans to go and stay with her sister for a bit, and she goes to work at a haunted house and gets involved in kind of like the paranormal stuff that's going on in the city. I'm looking forward to reading this one. I've put this on my August TBR and I can't wait to read it. And then we have a bunch of books that I bought brand new because they were either really cheap or ones I wanted to buy for projects. So the first one, which I showed you earlier, is The Roommate. This is an adult rom-com. I think it said online that this was a big TikTok book, but it's not really one that I've seen on many TikTok made me do it videos, so I don't really know how true that is. And I actually saw this author's other book in the works the other day and I nearly picked it up, but I didn't. Let's see, it says childhood crush, moving cross country, house share. Those are just some buzzwords. I'm expecting this to be a really fast read and I'm going to read it soonish. You saw these in my August TBR, but I picked up The Last Bear and The Lost Whale, both by Hannah Gold. These are absolutely stunning books. They're middle grade cli-fi books. This one, I haven't read it yet, but the main character finds the last ever polar bear while she and her mother are in the Arctic Circle, and this one, I think the main character travels to California and goes and hunt in search for a whale, I think. I'm really looking forward to reading both of these. They're stunning books. Cannot wait to get to them. I also picked up Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi because I've read this book before, gave it 5 stars and loved it. My camera died. Anyway, as I was saying, I adored this book when I read it a couple of years ago. It's a generational story. It starts in the 1800s, I think, in Africa, in what will become Ghana. 2 sisters are kind of living separately, and one marries a Englishman who is involved in the slave trade, and then the other is captured as a slave, shipped across the Atlantic to go and work over there. And then it follows their generations over the years and how different and similar their descendants' lives are, and then eventually they also interlink. It's a really, really good book. I love this book so much and I can't wait to reread it. Now that I'm talking about it, I really want to reread it now. Maybe I will do that after I have finished this video. I also picked up Dread Nation, which is a book that I started ages ago. I think I got it from EW, but I just never finished it because I wasn't in the mood for zombies. So this is YA horror, also historical, about zombies. It's a different take, I think, on the Civil War. It's the first in a duology and I've heard really good things about the sequel, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I bought this in order to recap it, but it's also a really, really nice cover. I actually love the look of this one. It's gonna look so good on my shelf. I also picked up A Dark and Hollow Star because someone wanted me to recap this recaptain, so of course I'm happy to oblige. I keep talking about recaptains. I'll probably do an actual video on it soon because I haven't spoken about it properly in a singular video in years. But basically it's a book recap website that I run. It's just me who runs it at the moment, so I'm a bit slow at getting to things, but I do post twice a week on there and I try to get to as many new releases and backlist books as I can. Anyway, so I picked this one up and I think it's about like half fae or half demons or something. I have no idea really. I've just heard really good things about it and someone asked me to get it, so I did. I also picked up Mina and the Undead because I want to reread it. I actually didn't put this on my August TBR, but I probably should have. Again, I didn't want to spoil this video. Yeah, I picked this one up in order to recap it and reread it. I really, really enjoyed it when I first read it. I think I gave it 3.5 or 4 stars. I can't quite remember. I'm gonna read them back to back. It's gonna be so good. I also picked up Red Tigress, which is the sequel to Blood Heir. This is the second book in the trilogy. I really, really enjoyed Blood Heir. So it's kind of a fantasy version of Russia and kind of like the myth of Anastasia. So the main character is a princess in hiding and she wants to get back to her kingdom and take back her throne. And there's a thief as a love interest and it's really, really good. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, so I'm hoping I'm gonna love this one as well. I did get the ebook actually just after finishing Blood Heir and tried to read it, but I couldn't get into ebooks earlier this year and I still am having a problem with it. So I picked up the physical version because I want to give it a go and read it soon. I also picked up Ninth Reign, The Ninth Reign, because it was really, really cheap on Amazon, so I thought I would. My friend Angela really, really enjoyed this book. She said the entire trilogy was really, really good. So I'm looking forward to getting to this one. I have no idea what it's about. I know that Jess from Jess Owens found the beginning a little bit tricky to read, but she also got really into it and wants to read the sequel soon. I have just seen there's massive blocks of italicized text, so that's not great. I don't love that. But yeah, I'm hoping I like this one. It's an adult fantasy book. And then for the final pile, we have all the books I got from the charity shop recently. There are quite a few, I have to admit. I've actually just seen I've got one over there. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, I did go a little bit wild because we went to a nearby town and it had a lot of good books. So yeah, I picked them up. So first of all, we have one that I have already read, and that is The Turn of the Key. I just love this edition. I love that it's got some illustrations here. I don't really know why it does have peacocks there. It's pretty obvious why. It's, you know, got red sprayed edges. Yeah, already read this one. It's an adult thriller about a woman who's in prison after having babysat a bunch of seemingly demonic children. I love this one. This is actually my favourite Ruth Ware book and I do want to reread it soon. Again, I want to do that now that I'm talking about it. I also picked up This Tender Land, which I had on my wish list, and I found it in a charity shop, I think for about £2. This one is set in Minnesota in 1932. It says here that the main character is an orphan who is confined to the Lincoln Indian Training School. He and his best friends are forced to flee, heading for the mighty Mississippi and a place to call their own. Over the course of one summer, these 4 orphans journey into the unknown and cross paths with others who are adrift, from struggling farmers and travelling faith healers to displaced families and lost souls of all kinds. So I think the author might be using the children as a way to explore what life was like along the Mississippi River back in the day. I haven't heard many people talk about this one, but I'm very, very intrigued. I'm really into historical fiction lately, in case you couldn't tell by my most recent hauls. I also picked up The Tiger's Wife. I honestly don't know loads about this one, but I saw there were a couple of copies in the charity shop. It says here that a tiger escapes from a local zoo. His nocturnal visits hold the villagers in terrified thrall, but for one boy the tiger is a thing of magic. Natalia is the granddaughter of that boy, who is now a doctor and is visiting orphanages after another war has devastated the Balkans. So again, another historical fiction book, I think, unless it's mainly set in the modern day. But what I really liked about this one was that it's got a little note from the original owner that was written 10 years ago, and it says, "To one of my most read friends, I look forward to discussing the ending with you. Thank you so much for the past 3 years. I simply don't know if I would have managed or survived without you. Much love, Jules. Kiss." And that was written on 10th of June 2012. I just thought that was lovely. So I'm really pleased to have this edition of this book with that note in there. It just, yeah, made me grin. I also picked up Pine, which is a gothic thriller, I think, of some sort. I don't know loads about it, but I know that the main character and her father are driving along a country road and a woman comes out of nowhere. This came out, I think, in 2020, and it was kind of a bit of a like low-key hit, I think. BookTube wasn't talking much about it, but I think other people were. I also picked up one that I hadn't heard of before, and that is The Mandibles, a family 2029 to 2047. This is by the author of We Need to Talk About Kevin. I didn't actually realise that she had written other books, so just finding this really excited me. And actually looking here, she has actually written loads and loads of other books, so if I like this one, I'm going to probably collect all of them. So it says that this one is set in 2029. The US national debt has grown so enormous that it can never be repaid. The dollar is in meltdown. A bloodless international currency war will wipe out the savings of millions of American families. Each member of the formerly formidable Mandible family must contend first with the disappointment and the challenge of sheer survival as they navigate a society in ruin. So I think it's about like rich people drama in the future when the dollar is collapsing. I think it sounds really, really good. I know this author is a really, really good writer, so yeah, can't wait to read this one. I'm hoping to get to it maybe in September. Another really good find that I am really pleased with is Queens of the Conquest by Alison Weir, who wrote all of the Six Wives of Henry VIII books. I haven't read any of them yet, but I think she's, from what I've heard, I think she's a really, really good author and she really knows her stuff. This book is about the 5 Norman queens. I didn't even realise there were more than 2 Norman queens. So I'm looking forward to reading this and knowing more about the women who helped shape English history. The little blurb at the top says this is the story of the 5 extraordinary queens who helped the Norman kings of England rule their dominions. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm really glad that I'm collecting all of Alison Weir's books. I also picked up History of Wolves for like £1. This one is about a girl who I think used to live in a commune, and she's bullied by other children who call her a freak. I think it's like a coming of age story, and it's very, very short, and it's got very high ratings on Goodreads from the people that I follow. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. I also picked up The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, which I found for I think £2, £3. I don't know much about this one other than it's a horror book, I think, about the sister of Dr. Frankenstein. I don't historically love Kirsten White's books. I do want to read her Conqueror books. I think it's the Conqueror Saga or something, the Andy Darken books, and I'm not particularly interested in this one, I have to say. I'm a bit wary that I won't love it because it's Kirsten White, but I found it and I want to give it a go because I know a couple of people who do love this book, so yeah, that's why I wanted to try it. I found a book that I've never heard of before, but it did sound really good, and that is Flashful. This one came out in 2016 and it was published, I think, by HarperCollins. I was a bit surprised because normally I am quite up to date with their works, but I wasn't for this one. I'd never heard of it before. And basically it's a dystopian book about a main character who is a caver, and I think the air above ground is like full of radiation and stuff, so it's not safe. Mary Pearson really liked it, and I'm honestly surprised that it's not more popular because I've heard nothing about it, although I did have this down as one to read on Goodreads, so I must have heard about it at some point. I just don't know when that was. So yeah, looking forward to reading this one at some point. It's probably going to be a really fast-paced read. And then finally, thank God, because I've been talking for ages, I found a hardback edition of The Starless Sea for £1. I don't know what kind of edition this is, if it's like the Waterstones edition, because it's got these sprayed edges, or like, I don't know, Fairy Loot or something. I'm not entirely sure. I think Fairy Loot would probably have a stamp, right? But yeah, this edition is gorgeous. I'm not, again, particularly interested in this, but because it was £1 and it's something that I might want to get to in the future if I really like The Night Circus when I eventually read that, I thought I'd get it. So yeah, I found a copy of The Starless Sea, which is a book I didn't think I would ever read, but now I might have to. So that's my enormous August book haul. I'm hoping there won't be another book haul for September because I really need to take a break from buying books and actually read the ones I have, because it's really stressing me out that I have run out of space on my TBR shelf again. Thank you for watching this. Please subscribe because there will be more book hauls in the future and zero TBR updates. I just don't know when those are going to be because I need to calm the heck down. But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these. If you think I should prioritize any of them and talk about any of them, let me know. I will speak to you all again in my next video. Bye.